When you are going to include factors like, agriculture, small industries and export, that is where you will see the growth is also becoming massive. You will see the enhancement of limit of composite loan up to 10 lakhs. No collateral securities are needed up to 5 lakhs. So you would see that most of the banks have emphasized themselves in terms of bringing in a women entrepreneurship role. Good morning and welcome to the second session of Unit 3, and we are going to speak about institutional support here. In the previous sessions in EDP, we were speaking about the financing options that was available for most of our young entrepreneurs. Now, we are going to continue with that in terms of the institutional support, which is a very, very big thing that's coming on our way in terms of developing the small scale business. Now, moving forward, let's try to understand the financial assistance that is being required from the commercial banks altogether. Now, one side, when we are speaking about the small scale sector, which confronts several problems in spite of the strategic implications in terms of the industrialization, policies and front, the government also understands and acknowledges, and that's why the government started promoting the small scale industry towards the commercial banks also. Now, what has happened in India is that over a period of time, even the private banks have started coming into the small scale financing altogether, because they want to understand what is the priority, what is the need that is coming around altogether for the small scale. Now, one side, if you see that they are the leaders of employment generation, they are the leaders of innovation, they are the leaders in terms of bringing in new ideas and growth altogether for the country. But the other side, the small scale industry definitely lacks the big push in terms of getting the money. So somewhere the priority to this sector has to be heightened so that they are able to get the job, they are able to get what they are in need for. So that is where commercial banks come into picture, and that's the support also coming in terms of the small and big private players. But then when we are talking about the priority lending from the government of India perspective, we also understand this factor that credit to small scale industries ensured as a part of priority lending by banks. So this is the point where you need to understand that banks have made it a priority, made it a top order point altogether, that they need to help the small scale industries at any given point of time. So this is very, very important here. The second thing is that it is required to compulsorily ensure defined percentage. Now, that's about 40% of overall lending classified by the government. So what is going to happen here is that they are going to get into classification altogether. Now, that's going to be a very, very interesting factor, that because when you start seeing 40% of the priority being given to a small scale sector altogether, that is how things are going to happen. So this becomes highly important, this becomes highly necessary altogether, that how we spend time, how we develop ourselves in terms of getting to the small scale sector or the small scale branches altogether. Now, many times if you start understanding the priority that's coming here, that is primarily because these sectors can generate a huge volume of business and also employment. Now, if you look into the SSI, the one thing that is predominantly lacking or that is going to come forward is the business cycles altogether. Many a time, because of some major setbacks or some calamities, disasters or economic backlashes, this sector definitely gets a massive beating. But then that's where the role of banks become more important. If the banks come forward and they start giving them the priority during that particular time period and give them the maximum loans as far as possible, then automatically they will be able to go forward and give whatever needed factors there. So that is where this becomes a very, very important factor. Now, the most important thing is that it includes agriculture, small industries, export, etc. So this is highly important. This is highly mandatory in nature. Why? Because when you are going to include factors like, agriculture, small industries and export, that is where you will see the growth is also becoming massive. The growth is also going up to the highest level as far as possible. Now, the next one, what we are going to talk about is the financial assistance from the commercial banks in terms when the institutional arrangement comes. So when we talk about the SIDBI, which is the Apex Refinance Bank, they are also coming in terms of providing term loans to the SFCs and the scheduled banks, which is a very, very important factor. Plus, the credit lending in direct and indirect form, which is coming in from NABARD and from the national small scale industry. So refinancing is one of the most important factors as we were talking about. When in case of expansion, in case of upgradation, you definitely need a financial assistance, and that is being provided by this team altogether. Followed by, when we are talking about the liberalization policy here, in the Indian economy, the earmarking of credit to the tiny sector, the overall lending to that of small scale industry was a very big event altogether, because that is how we started moving forward, and we started also understanding the need for opening up specialized SSI banks branches. Because once you open up those kind of banks and branches, which is going to concentrate only into that sector, you will see that there's a huge amount of growth happening and the establishment also starts moving forward. Now, when you talk about the establishment of National Equity Fund for the venture capital support, of late, if you'd have seen through the media channel news, every factor, even starting from our Prime Minister altogether, they have been trying to support the venture capital growth altogether. They have been promoting us from the factor that yes, there needs to be a push for entrepreneurship, there needs to be a push for development, there needs to be a push for the demand factor to happen. So the amount of money that is now being kept as a support for the national venture capitalist factor is very, very important, and that's how the system will start expanding. That's how the system will start growing altogether. Now, Technology Development Modernization Fund through SIDBI, which, as I was telling you, because these days what is happening is that even at the smallest level of industry, you definitely need some sort of technological push and expansion that has to come way with you in terms of development. So definitely I would say that the need for expansion is coming up in a big way in this industry. Now, the other thing is that when we talk about the enhancement of turnover limit for assessing aggregate working capital finance, that is very much needed today. You will see the enhancement of limit of composite loan up to 10 lakhs. No collateral securities are needed up to 5 lakhs. So you would see that there's a host lot of information here which I want to share with you exclusively. Why? Because let's say among us, if tomorrow somebody wants to become an entrepreneurship, this is the session I really want you to concentrate, because you would see that with the help of SIDBI and SSI specialized branches, you will be able to get a lot of composite loan, a lot of facility, and you don't have to give on much collateral if you're going to look in for a loan below 5 lakhs. Now you can see the amount of help that is being given by the government so that you are able to promote and move forward. The comprehensive policy package also talks about the launch of credit guarantee scheme to cover some up to 25 lakhs, which is very, very important. Launch the credit capital subsidy scheme for loans against technology, or when you're going to talk about further enhancement ceiling made up to 25 lakhs, or enhancement of project cost under the National Equity Fund up to 50 lakhs. So somewhere down the lane, the government has made it a priority for enhancement, for technology upgradation, or you're talking about a venture capital funding. You have a seed funding from 25 lakhs to 50 lakhs. This is a very, very good scheme that has been brought up by the government in order to promote entrepreneurship. Followed by the major commercial banks and its assistance in terms of helping up the entrepreneurship. Now, if you see here, some of the schemes that have been brought up by SBI, none other than State Bank of India, the largest bank in India, concentrating the SSI sector is the general purpose term loan, which is a very, very important factor. It grants loan for SSI to meet the commercial purpose like high cost debt, research and development, network and funding business altogether. The term loan is normally 3 years and the pricing is tuned to the risk of the borrower. Repayment is strictly done in monthly or quarterly installments. Now that is very, very important. Why? Because SBI, being the India's largest bank, they took the initiative of coming towards the SSI sector, that is the small scale industry sector, in a great way. Their reach and their presence is all over India. So definitely SBI will have a much more potentiality in terms of coming forward and taking the industry to the next league, to the next level as far as possible. Now, when you look at the liberalized credit that has been provided to the SSI, SBI extends production-linked credit facilities for SSI ancillary cotton industries with certain terms and conditions. Now, this is very, very interesting. Why? Because if you look to the belts of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, these are all the cotton belts where you would see that there's a lot of production for the small-scale farmers. Even in Tamil Nadu, which is a hub for the cotton industries, all these sectors have been covered by SBI, where they are providing term loans at easy access at a lower credit limit altogether, so that the industry is able to develop and it's able to move forward. Now, the composite loan sanction up to 25 lakhs, combining loan and the working capital. Now, that is also going to come forward in terms of developing your industry. Followed by the entrepreneur scheme. Now, SBI grants financial assistance to technically qualified, trained and experienced entrepreneurs, which is coming up in a big way. The loans are extended to the technocrats under liberalized schemes. It is applicable to technically qualified person, craftsmen, industrial management and all those people. They have been helping up in a great manner. And the bank also provides term loans, working capital and equity fund scheme. So you can see that now SBI has started specializing itself in the areas of the small scale sector itself, which is now becoming a very big sector by itself, a very big growth center by itself, because SBI understands that at one point of time, the loans, the funds that are being extended, the factors that are being extended are definitely of going to be a great help to this industry, which is looking forward for all kind of support and dimensions coming forward. Now, the equity fund scheme, which is a very, very interesting scheme that is started by SBI, grants financial assistance to entrepreneurs who are not able to meet their share of equity, interest-free loans repayable over a long period. Now, there might be small-scale industries, no doubt about it, but as we know that even private companies would be in a position to give out their shares. At that point of time, the entrepreneur will face a difficulty in terms of launching up the share and giving it up, because he needs some money, he needs some seed funding altogether. So SBI understands the need of money, the need of the pulse at that point of time, and they start giving it all together. Now, the equity fund assistance can be normally repaid 5 to 7 years after the moratorium period. So it is very much flexible altogether. You can take time about 5 to 7 years and then you can repay back the factors. And that is why it is very, very important, and that is why it is highly needed in terms of understanding the equity fund. So many times you might see that at that particular junction, I'm not able to get money. So can I go back and can I entrust myself in terms of getting some fund assistance? Yes, SBI does it through the equity fund scheme. Followed by the Stree Shakti package. It's a unique scheme that has been launched by SBI to support women entrepreneurs. India is a country where we have always supported women for their empowerment, for their ideas and innovation. And this is the first evidence which I would like to talk about, where we came up with the Stree Shakti package, trying to help the women entrepreneurs, providing them certain concession. It should also have more than 50% of the share capital owned by women to qualify. Now, starting with small companies like Lijjat Papad, which is now gone out to become the home name altogether. There are many companies like where women are able to run the industry successfully, and that's why SBI took this initiative of coming forward with an exclusive package that is only for the women to come forward and run the business. The only condition is that more than 50% of the company's ownership should be in the hand of a woman. followed by the export finance scheme. Now, the export is something which is a very, very interesting factor. Why? Because most of the people dream that today or tomorrow, my company has to go abroad, has to reach the shores of the other land altogether. So if I am into manufacturing, if I am into a production-based industry, I definitely want my products to go forward and reach other nations. So in that, we talk about the pre-shipment finance, the packaging credit, the clean packaging, the pre-shipment allowances to foreign currency. We talk about the post-shipment finance, the foreign bank guarantee, the letters of credit. All these things are an essential factors that we are talking about in terms of the foreign exchange business altogether. Why? Because these are the factors, these are the needs that we are going to talk about in terms of the export finance scheme. They are really going to help people in terms of understanding the business, in terms of promoting the business altogether. So what you're going to do here is that you are going to understand, you are going to make sure that this factor, this ideology is going to actually get promoted through the Foreign Development Promotion Councils and so many factors where the banks is assisting the young entrepreneurs to push their products abroad, which can earn a greater FDI and a greater foreign reserve exchange for us. Now, moving forward, let's also talk about the assistance from Canara Bank to the SSI sector, our very own bank from the state of Karnataka, which has been a promoter of the small scale sector. Now, they have also come up with composite loan scheme, which has been trying to help the small scale industries in a great manner. They have come up with small simplified schemes that is devised under a single window concept of RBI to suit the small and the bigger large scale sectors. It is also to provide credit to the entrepreneurs for acquiring the equipments, construction of work sheds and meet the work capital altogether. Now it is provided to artisans, village cottage industries in manufacturing, processing and not exceeding more than 25 lakhs. So now what is happening here is that all the industries, all the packages, all the factors here that we are trying to see is that it is being developed, it is being going forward in terms of the business altogether, and it is it's moving forward in such a manner, it's moving forward in such a way that you will be able to see that this kind of loan is being provided to even the smallest level, to the lowest level as far as possible. Now what is needed for us, what is very, very important for us is that when we are talking about the processing, when we are talking about the manufacturing sector and the setup altogether, we need to understand that this particular industry which are being engaged in this sector altogether requires a lot of assistance, though it might be a small amount, but yes, they need a continuous assistance in terms of developing it and taking it forward. Now, the other thing that we can talk about is the Canara Bank has also come up with the margin money scheme, the basic money that is required in order to maintain the margin, focusing on employment opportunities altogether. The individual society trust self-help group by the central and by the state government. The partnership and private limited are not eligible for this. Of course, this is going to be for only the small scale individual units which have come up in a long way, and followed by the Mahila Udyam scheme. Now you see that most of the banks have emphasized themselves in terms of bringing in a women entrepreneurship role at a massive level, at a great level. Starting from SBI to Canara Bank to Bank of Baroda to probably every single nationalized bank, and including the private banks also, have given up their time, have given up their energy in terms of bringing up a scheme for the women entrepreneurship so that the equity type, the soft loan assistance is being provided and they are able to reach greater heights in terms of business development. Followed by, I would also like to talk about the financial assistance from the Karnataka State Industrial Investment Development Corporation, the KSIIDC, which is a very big sector by itself, a very big bank institution by itself, which has been coming in terms of helping up the growth, especially in medium and large scale sector. So from the SSI, we have also started concentrating for the medium and large scale sector. It provides a financial assistance in terms of the loans, long-term loans, leasing equipment, the mid-range finances, and it also accepts application for financing as per the standards that have been mentioned in the application of the Karnataka state. So you will be able to see that this particular functionality is coming up in a big way to help all the institutions to grow. And we are also going to talk about the direct equity participation and underwriting facility. Now, what is happening here is that corporations participate in direct equity share capital in respect to assisted and joint sector company. So there are several companies in India which come under a joint sector, which means they are under collaboration. They're like an ancillary. They're like, combined in terms of production. So a joint sector industry is a very, very important factor. It is up to 11% of the paid up equity capital depends on the project, and the time given to you is 3 to 5 years on a mutual agreement. So up to 11% of the capital is being covered up by these banks, and they are ready to pay you a maximum time period of 3 to 5 years. Now, the equipment finance scheme, that's going to be a very, very important thing that is going to purchase, that's going to identify the factors. It's going to talk about the new plant machinery for modernization, expansion, and all those things. Eligibility assistance is now available. That's also there. Industrial concerns with good performance record, sound financial position, everything is in factors for this of the case IDC. So they are trying to provide you all kind of factors, all kind of facilities and things. And this is something which, it comes in terms of an inbuilt package altogether, which is trying to come up, which is trying to rebuild most of the companies. And if you look into the repayment years also, they are providing a considerable amount of time for the industries to come up, rebuild and go forward. So this is definitely a very, very good plan that has been brought up by the Karnataka State Industrial Development. And that's one of the reasons probably you can say today the state has become the Silicon Valley of India, with a lot of assistance coming in from the government. If you look here, even the moratorium has been extended up to 1 year, and the security is exclusive hypothecation on capital goods that have been proposed, and with or without the first and second existing factors, that is the fixed assets altogether. So somewhere down the lane, the government has understood the need for the entrepreneurs and how they need to bring it, how they need to develop, what are all the assistance that has been needed, and how you can bring in an objective assistance. When I say this word, why? Because many times what happens is that you have an industry, but then the government is not able to understand or decipher your needs. So that is the point where you will see that there is an amount of funding that's coming in, there is an amount of factors that are coming in terms of plant and machinery development altogether. Now, the KSICC was previously known as the MYSURU Small Industries Corporation. It provided help for the small sectors. In 1960, the Karnataka state government, with the support of the Department of Industries, they had set up this entire factor here. It took over the activities of the management, started up setting up industrial estates, distribution of raw material. It initially started up with a meager capital of 10 lakhs under the state government and contributed first 10 years with 20 lakh rupees. Today, if you start see that it has a paid up capital of 246 crores, that is one of a very big achievement that KSIDC has been able to do in the last 20 to 30 years. Now, the main services is that they are in the establishment and management of industrial estates, procurement and distribution of raw material. They are providing assistance for marketing of small schemes and industries, determination of information by participation in exhibitions. So you can see several exhibitions that are happening in Bangalore, Mysuru, and major towns and cities of Karnataka, where you will see the product expo happening. Plus, they also participate in international exhibitions. They help in supply of machinery, hire purchasing, guidance to the SSI, which is very, very important, because many a times our young entrepreneurs lack that guidance. They are not knowing how to take it forward. So definitely a guidance is being provided, and the technical library facilities, they also guide you in terms of the documentation procedure. Now, we will also talk about IFCI, which is the Industrial Finance Corporation of India. This is a government body set up at the national level. It was set up in the year 1948 as per the statutory Corporation Act. It's the first public financial institution and converted into a public limited company. So it's a traded company altogether. Plays a very, very vital role in terms of the economic development. It has sanctioned about $453 billion to $440 billion to the industry. Look at the size at which we are talking about. Billions of rupees coming out from a national sponsored company altogether, and that has been able to develop our economy, and it has tried to help organizations like NSE when you talk about Management Development Institute, and it has been also promoting the EDI and also the LIC, all big finances and big names all together in their respective field. And this has all been able to happen because of the IFCI, which has been playing a pivotal role in guiding and developing entrepreneurship. Followed by the activities of IFCI, we would talk about project finance, financial services, non-project corporate advisory, and also deals with the financial resources in terms of debentures, borrowings, and other factor. So when you talk about project finance, this is one company where you can say that it provides both credit and debit facility in terms of the industrial projects, expansion, any kind of brown bag projects, new services that are coming in. Financial services for your expansion, modernization, upgradation of technology, all those factors are here. Non-project specific assistant, it is trying to provide in the form of the corporate short-term loans, working capitals, bill discounting, all those factors are coming in. The corporate advisory services definitely are most recommended and needed factor here. And it also provides in terms of the rupee and foreign currency termination altogether. Now it also deals with three financial resources, that is your share capital, bonds and debentures and other borrowing. So it is providing a whole lot of gamut of activities starting from your initial level funding or the finance to that of dealing with the listing and of the financial services altogether. So with this, I come to the conclusion of the session. I hope and believe that the session was highly informative, useful, and of a great resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we are going to talk about some of the schemes that are being created by Government of India in terms of promoting entrepreneurship and making the journey even more interesting. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me on this wonderful session.